Bam, we're live. We're live. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the studio. Hopefully I've got everything right. Flying solo here this morning. Oh, but I got the right stuff. I got the right stuff in my cup. Have you? Can you see that? Can you see that? Beautiful. Beautiful. Butter coffee. Love it. Let me know. Hey, Nettie, how are you? Nettie, what are you doing awake? Aren't you in Australia? What time is it? 7:30 this morning. My goodness, Nettie, welcome. Okay, seeing here fine. Thank you, Lori. Okay, now that I know I have everything set up, just about, I am so done with trying to connect my iPhone through Ecamm Live to show you the palette shot. I nearly hurled my phone across the room. It's not working. It's not working. So right now, okay, just a little bit of tech stuff. Right now I'm talking to you on what's called a Sony ZV. I'm going to have to buy another one. I'm going to have to buy another one. This one works great, but I want to get another one of these over here on the palette because today I can't even show you what I'm mixing. So I'm going to have to talk to you about what I'm mixing because like my phone connected, but it just was like, yeah, but now I'm just not going to show you the video. I'll connect, but you're not going to see anything. I'm like, well, thank you, iPhone. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Hey, today we're working on this painting. You remember this painting? This was Ardrossan Street. It was the street that the council came and did a nice little rearrangement to and decided it'd be a wonderful idea to cut down all of these boughs and trees. That tree, I think, is gone. The poplar has been completely vandalized. They went through and just went, and so I decided to paint the way it looked in its heyday. Back in 2020, it was absolutely beautiful. I got that picture back then. Rachel and I took a lovely stroll down this street, and I just thought, wouldn't that be nice? A little something for the house. Oh no, actually, I was painting this for the house, I'll tell you that. But I ended up having somebody come through and buy this. Goodness, it's early. It's early. It's early. Wonderful to see you here, though. And nice to have some new faces in the live chat. Welcome to the live stream. A lot of y'all who haven't seen the live, welcome. This is kind of what we've been doing the past several weeks, and I want to say a huge apology to my Europeans and my British viewers, everybody in the UK. I'm really sorry that we've neglected you because I just keep going, 10 till 12 here in the studio. But every now and again, I'll wake up real early, get down here. Oh my goodness, I'm used to waking up early anyway. Last couple of weeks I haven't though, because I have been feeling a little under the weather, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Just the winter stuff going around, and there's something about toddlers, whenever they pick something up, they amplify it within their little system and then they give it to you tenfold. What's with that? What's with that? So anyway, okay. Now, for my Europeans, if you're new here, huge shout out, huge welcome. I want you to let me know if you're new. If you've never seen me paint live before, if you're new to Tisch Academy, hit me up in that live chat right now. 3 capital N's for new. Say hello. Let us know where you're from. And my OGs, type in OG. You know what to do. Great to see you here, Trey. It's wonderful having Trey in a live stream. I've missed you, Trey. Great to see you, Lori and Jim Meeker in the house. Jim Meeker's got that. I can see Jim Meeker coming up here on the screen. He's got that cool little logo now, that wrench that wrench right next to his name. That means he's what does that mean? That means you're moderator, Jim. And I thank Jim Meeker for all he does. Speaking of Jim Meeker and the team, shout out to the team, the Paint FOMO team. We got Paint FOMO dropping today, and we announced the winner of our competition for that big deluxe pack of Rosemary & Co. brushes. And the runner-up I've got a little prize for. And I got two honorable mentions for other works of art that just did fantastic. We've got another little special prize that we're going to be throwing out there as well. So prizes all around. Hey, shout out to my OGs. Hey, Colin. Colin, welcome to the live stream. Wonderful to have you here. Now, some people were saying, we'll just get a couple of things out the way first. Some people were saying that, oh, love the new time. This isn't the new time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it up and alternate. So we'll go a week on, week off, week on, week off, and I'm going to try and make this work for everybody. I might even be going super early on the odd week just to give every time zone a chance to join in and participate in the live. So, and I don't know, don't hold me to this, but I think occasionally we might need to do a twofer. We might need to do a couple of live streams within the week. So, lots to talk about though. Lots happening here. Goodness. All right, before I have a coughing fit, I'm going to mute my... The thing with butter is, it goes straight down your throat, into your lung, straight. I got it down the wrong pipe. Anyway, okay, let me pull up a little bit of reference material. And you will have access to this reference material, I'm very certain. Mr. Jim Meeker, if I haven't posted the reference material somewhere in the Academy, do let me know. But I'll just pull up my reference material here on my iPad. I'm going to be referring to my iPad. What do I do with my dang reference material? He's well prepared, is Tish, for these live streams, because he's a professional, don't you know? I've got so many albums here on my iPad. These are all albums. I've got so many dang albums here. It's no wonder. I thought I put it up at the lead, at the start of that queue, but nah. How weird. Okay, I might be doing it without reference today. But that'll be all right. At least you'll have access to the reference material. Okay, now the other thing I was going to mention is if you have a question today, now that's what we're here to do. If you haven't seen the lives before, that's always the goal of every live stream, is to answer questions. And my goal is to, found it. Ha, I knew I would. You didn't think I would. I did. Check it out. There it is. Lovely stuff. Just like iPhone reference sometimes is fine. It's actually, there's everything I need in that. I mean, we're going to add a bit more atmosphere and a little bit more of a feeling of realism. How can you say that? It's a photo, but you'll see. We're going to add a little bit more depth than what I'm seeing there. But just shot with an iPhone. It's totally cool. So here's what you do. If you got a question, type in 3 capital Q's in the chat. My goal is to answer every single question. And if I miss it, if for some reason I don't see your question, spam me in that live chat. That's my goal for everyone. Donna, I'm going to get Jim Meeker to answer that question. That's a good question. I don't actually know. I'm a bit of a technophobe. Thank you, Jim. If you want to ask Andrew a question once he starts, you type 3 capital Q's so he can see it better, says Rhiannon. That's right, Rhiannon. Thank you very much. Okay, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on this painting. What I have here is an initial block-in. This is a 20 by 24. The block-in went directly over a dried imprimatura. That was the underlying color, the underlying tone. For a bit of revision for people that might have missed the first couple of classes, is here. Here's a little panel, homemade jobby. I paint on these out in the field. And so this has got a combination of burnt sienna and burnt umber. Now that's mixed with some pure gum turpentine, a little bit of liquid, and that paint, which is burnt umber and burnt sienna. And then I apply that with a rag and then wipe it off completely. You'll have in your course library access to a video where I make a whole bunch of linen panels. And in fact, this panel here was made during that session. So check that out if you haven't already. Now that's a very similar color as to what was here originally when I started just sketching this scene over the top. And I pretty much worked from the photograph, but also a drawing. So go back a few live streams where we're working on this. You might be able to tell what that live stream is from the thumbnail, but go back and check that out and you'll see what kind of got us to this point. So now we're at a really important time in the painting. And this is where we start to build in that depth and dimension. Initially, our first shot at a painting like this, working with this process, is to get really as much information down as we can, but what we're doing is we're establishing those zones. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to be going from zone to zone and working out little tiny differences, little things that I can pick up, little bit of nuance here and there, a shift in tone, a shift in color to sculpt three-dimensional form, to create a sense of depth, to bathe it with some sort of light, and I want to clearly see the material that it is that I'm painting. Form, depth, light, material. Remember our checklist, right? I always go back to this checklist, particularly with a lot of those critique videos, is we've got our checklist of 12 things. Our job as artists is to control those first 8. We're thinking about the last 4, but that first 8. Hit me up in the live chat right now. Who remembers the flow chart of the 4 to the next 4 to the last 4? Do you remember what that is? We've talked about this a bunch, but go ahead, hit me up right now. Give me the first 4, see who's paying attention. I'm gonna have to start giving away prizes again during the live streams. All right. Does it have to be specifically pure gum turpentine? Lynn, fantastic question. No, it doesn't. You can actually use some Gamsol if you wish. You could use some mineral turpentine if you like. Careful with that one. Don't do it in the studio. Do it outside. I prepped my linen panels and canvases. Normally I do that outside, unless you've got a big studio space like this, but I didn't until, again, very recently, coming back to the old big studio. But you can use any kind of solvent that will kind of evaporate away, but remember, it's really important that once you apply it, you wipe it all away with the clean rag. So you want to get it to a point where it's a stain. I found that when I brushed it on and left it there without wiping it away, I created a slick surface that would repel the first layer of oil paint, and that's not something that you want. You really want to just wipe it all away. And this is the only time I'll use any solvent mixed with paint as part of my painting process. So really, you're just using it as a stain, and you're trying, once you apply it, try and rub it. The challenge is try and rub it all off. But you can use any solvent there. Lynn, hang on. I shouldn't say any solvent. Some solvents will melt your primer. If you have an acrylic primer and you use acetone, for instance, that could eat away at it, so don't use any solvent. But you could use Gamsol, Pure Gum Terps, or your mineral terps. Okay? Cool. Here we go. Well, you're giving me the first one. Boom! Pamela's got it. And Leslie's got it, just not in the order, but that's fine. We don't have to get it in order as long as you got the first. Yeah, Deborah's got it too, and Trey's got it. Fantastic. So that's really it. So think about it. Within our control, we've got line and shape. We've got our tone, which is our value scale, how light or dark something is. We've got our color, and we've got our edge, the way one thing meets something else, right? And then through manipulating that stuff, paying close attention to that stuff, that's what leads to the feeling of form, depth, light, and material. Now, from a commercial standpoint, if we want to create paintings that are more attractive and more sellable, let's just boil it down. It is what it is. A lot of us want to sell our work. That's how I get by. I want to sell my work. I want to also encourage people out there that see my work to go, hang on, how do you do that? What hooks people is that feeling of form, depth, light, and material. But your first 4 is what opens the doorway that leads to that stuff. Now, the last 4, hit me up in the chat. Let me know the last 4. You might come up with your last 4. Those are just some things that have kind of resonated with me. But I'm open to adding to it or editing that list. But there's an intangible quality to that last 4. There's something going on there that pushes painting into another dimension. Here's what I'm talking about. You see those works at the museums and the galleries. I'm not saying this is one of them. Okay, I'm not. But you see those works where you stand in front of this painting and you're almost, you can almost feel the tear rolling down your cheek. It's a gut punch. It pulls at your heart. You're just like, oh, that's so beautiful. I'm there. I feel this, right? What is it? What's the last four? Hit me up. Ah, boom. Pamela's got it already. Pamela, you're on the ball today. Let me tell you. What time is it for you? You're not in Australia too. Because if you were in Australia like Nettie, I'd be impressed. That brain is working sharp for 5 a.m. And speaking of which, Nettie got it too. Shout out Nettie on the East Coast in Australia. Well done. Okay, I'm gonna mix up some color. I'm gonna do the best I can to show you this color with this side view here. We're gonna go a little bit bigger on my overlay. And with my overlay, no, I'm not gonna mess with the settings because I know I'm gonna screw something up. So maybe I can do that for now and show you on that overlay a little bit of color. We can talk about it. I know the ring light's there and it's a little bit, actually, you know what I could do is I could adjust that palette and that would mean that that ring light wouldn't reflect so bad. Okay, but first, I'm gonna adjust my wide angle here. So we'll find a workaround. We're gonna make this work. We're solutions people. Oh, I'm so excited today. Today's a big day. Today we are gonna be releasing Paint FOMO. And what is Paint FOMO? If you haven't seen Paint FOMO, haven't heard of Paint FOMO, Paint FOMO is our official Tisch Academy newsletter. This is your, oh, it's just such a great read. This issue is absolutely massive, and it's a group effort. It ain't just me writing articles. We have a guest article from Mr. Adam Stevens, Tisch Academy's own Adam Stevens. Fantastic Instagram and website as well, Adam has, so check that out. Now, we got a guest post from Adam Stevens. We've got Jim Meeker's normal spot in there. I'm pretty sure Jim Meeker's in this issue. Aren't you, Jim? Of course you are. I think I saw that. But we also have a book review section, a couple of articles from yours truly, and we've got an epic gallery of painting. I think that's as good as that palette's going to get, by the way. We've got an epic gallery of paintings from the competition, which I cannot wait to share with you. And of course, the winner, you're going to see the winner on the cover. But that said, I'm going to say this. I don't like competitions. I don't. I really don't like competitions. How's that? Is that okay? Can we adjust this camera now? Get that just a little bit better. I'm trying here. Will that work? I'll mix up a little bit here and I'll just explain as I go. I know it's little, but that's all right. Yep, tech advice and book review. Thank you, Jim. Jim Meeker's got a couple of things there in this article. This is a monster issue, I tell you. And an artist, I guarantee you haven't heard of. I wrote an article on an artist there that you haven't. I know you haven't heard of her. If you have, then you tell me. But I think I found one that you haven't heard of yet. And that's my challenge in each issue, is to find somebody that you probably haven't heard of. Now, just back to the painting here for a second. What I want to do is I want to work on little pieces of this painting at a time. I did say in the email and in the prompts as well that we were going to be working with autumn leaves. We are, but I want to do a little section on these pine trees here. I want to do a little section with some of these leaves, the way they meet that background. First, we've got to establish some tones and colors here in this background. And then I'm going to work in another couple of little areas here and there. We're just going to hang out. I love these paint sessions. Again, the lives are the highlight of my week. I really enjoy them so much. I hope you do too. I've seen the winner and well deserved, says Jim. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, we'll announce that today. You'll find it on your homepage. I'm going to blast out also an email today with the winner. Sorry, with a link to Paint Foam, an announcement when it officially goes up on the homepage, and then you'll be able to see the winner. And then also some of the content that you may have missed on Tish Academy. We uploaded this week. I think we put out Aaron's cows this week, but we also have a new sketch video in the 100 Heads series. You can check that out. And there's a couple of other things too. Like, we're releasing so much now that I'm kind of losing track of what's going out. But there's a lot. There's a lot. I know I've been making videos like crazy, so I hope you're enjoying all the content. Okay, we're going to start working here in the background, and we're going to start with this little section of pine trees. And here, I'm going to mix in, I'm going to go straight for that Crimnitz white once again. I love the Crimnitz. Have y'all got Crimnitz? BlueRidgeOilPaint.com. I'm pretty sure the code is Academy 10. I'm pretty sure. Mr. Jim Meeker, could you refer to that issue of Paint Foam? I think we put the code in the issue that's about to go out. But if you know the code for 10% off oil paint, could you let us know kindly, sir, in the live chat what our code is to get 10% off Blue Ridge oils? Oh, and I'm pleased to announce we finally have got 10% off Rosemary & Co. brushes as well. And by the way, whenever I tell you about like Blue Ridge oils or Rosemary & Co., I just want to let you know, okay? And I'm not trying to win brownie points here. Okay, maybe a little bit. Give me a couple of brownie points. But I basically negotiated with these guys to say, listen, I want 10% off for my students. That's what I want. I want 10% off for my students. Don't pay me. I want to give them the savings. I don't want to be paid for this. I want to pass that off to them. And the only people that are getting that 10% off, right, getting those codes, are the people here, you here on the Academy. So there you go. There you go. So that Crimnitz white, that will be shipped to you if you order it online, I'm very certain. Unless you got some crazy laws not allowing artists' paint to come into your country. I don't know. I think New Zealand might be getting silly like that because they've done a nationwide ban on lead. But I think that's just, you can't get it in from a retailer, but I'm pretty sure you can get it sent to you personally for your personal use. Who knows how long that will last. So I'm mixing up a little bit of a gray color here. I don't really know if that's coming through, but a little bit of a gray color. And we've got a bit of ultramarine blue, Crimnitz white, burnt umber, and a bit of cobalt blue. And I'm starting to use now just a touch of that liquid impasto. I've got a little gelatinous lump there. No color in it at all. That's liquid impasto medium. Mixing it in about a ratio of 1 part medium to 3 parts paint. And we're just going to start to work here in these trees. Let me switch up the camera a little bit. Let me get, okay, I got to aim that clearly. Let's go ahead and get that where you can see it. Bam. Perfect. I have a bunch of brushes in my cart. Fantastic. So the code for Rosemary & Co. is Tish Academy 10, all uppercase, all one word. The number 10, numerals 10. Tish Academy 10. Make sure you spell Tish right, T-I-S-C-H, all uppercase, all one word. And there you go. Now, just like what we were painting with Larch Thicket, this one here is really another case of that application, of twisting the brush, creating something that's got a bit of dimension, a bit of character, but now I want to get a bit more volume of paint out. So I'm noticing a little bit of a green tinge coming through in some of my reference. I'm going to have to just flash this up here so you can see what I'm saying. Right here in those trees. It's so blue and hazy, but there is quite a bit of yellow coming through. So I'll make sure I get some of that in there. So transparent yellow oxide is a great go-to for creating that depth without creating something too saturated that will come too far forward. Otherwise, a bit of raw sienna, that works great too. that's the right note. Bam. Now, often I'll have a little session with the painting where it will take me, it'll take me a little while to warm up. And I gotta kind of blast those cobwebs out of there. I certainly found that with the last painting. It took me about an hour before it just went click. I was working on this waterfall painting last night that we have scheduled to be finished up this week, edited and ready for release for y'all for next week as part of our Tisch Academy relaunch. And that's been an ongoing project for several years. In fact, I started that painting back in 2020. And it's just been sitting there, and I've been chipping away at it here and there. But I'm so glad to be back on that painting. It's the Icy River waterfall. I posted it to my Instagram story. Maybe you saw that. I know a few of you replied to that story. I thank you for that. Tisch Academy 10, Rosemary and code. Thank you. Jim has just put those codes in the live chat there. Thanks very much. There you go, Trey. You bet. No worries, Balsam Art. Thank you. I had my, Balsam, I had my dentist appointments last week. No, a couple of weeks ago now. I don't envy you. But get through it. Just get her done. It's, and then you find afterwards, you're like, that's not so bad. I get so nervous though, about sitting in that chair. I'm a terrible patient when it comes to dental stuff. But hopefully that's the last of it for a long while. So here I'm noticing in my reference, I'll just flash this up here again. I'm noticing here that we've got a darker note under those trees. Notice we can see those really beautiful trunks there. We'll go ahead and paint those in, but I'm thinking strategically. So I'm just breaking it down first into more simple shapes. I'm painting the tree first and this block of shadow underneath these trees. For a darker tone there, I've mixed in a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of cobalt blue. It always starts off just so blocky, a little bit boring, but what a lot of people don't get to see is those initial steps of how you get to a realistic looking painting. It's just built up one piece at a time. It's important that we're patient with this. A lot of times we can just be in such a rush, can't we? It does take time. So you got to stay with it and think about each and every move. Eventually, after you've been doing it for a while, it does click over into more of an intuitive process. But one thing's for sure, it does require patience. And that patience just comes with time. Now, in my last sketch video, which you'll find right now in your library, I'm actually sharing with you a few little mindset tips and tricks and things that I've gathered over the years. I hope you find it helpful. I hope you don't think of me as too much of a cheese ball, but there's some things that I've found have really worked for me in developing that patience and persistence. One thing that was absolutely vital for me is just continuing to work through those blocks. So when it wasn't quite working out, just sticking with it, not letting up. Just don't give up on that painting. Go, oh, this isn't working, I'll start something new. No, stay in that zone and keep working with it. I tell you that, but I'm about to give up on that palette shot. I don't know if that's working. Let me know if it's working. QQQ, how do you soften edges after the paint has dried? Leslie Daniels, that's a wonderful question. Thank you. So the trick is to soften the edges. And here, we're going to create a little bit of a soft edge right here with this hill line. You see that? And one thing that helps is working into what's called a couch, right? So getting a little bit of paint back onto the surface. Here, there's a relatively hard, crusty line. There's a little bit of that imprimatur showing through. Well, you can't see it. We're off camera there. But just over a little bit. It's a little bit of a harsh line where the hill meets the sky. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with one area, add a new fresh layer of paint, work with this area, and bring these two edges together and soften ever so slightly. You can always soften by depositing more paint, or another way that you can do it is by getting a little bit of medium out on the surface. Let's have a look at that. So here with just a touch of Liquid Original on my brush, nothing else, I'm just going to wet that surface, and you really can't use much medium for this at all, but let's say I just required a little bit of softness right there. With just the medium, I can then work that edge, and notice there how that immediately just softens it a little bit. It just thinned out that paint towards that lead edge, and now I've got something that's a little bit more gentle. In fact, I kind of like that. However, I do need to change the color note right here. I don't quite have the right color space, so we're going to work on that. But that's one way you can do it, is you can use just a bit of medium and mobilize that. Leslie, you've been told to use raw umber along the edges. Okay, what's the reasoning there for that? That sounds very interesting. Now I'm curious. So let me know, please. What's the reasoning for the raw umber? But it does sound like an interesting idea. I must admit I haven't heard of that. So I try to avoid anything really that feels like a rule when it comes to depositing paint with a brush. There's always going to be some sort of interesting discovery, but if we become too rigid with, well, this is what I do for this, and this is what I do for that, and you know, I know I'm giving you some techniques here, some tips and tricks and stuff, but there's nothing here that's a hard rule. It's just a little strategy here and there for getting a particular effect. But I've seen, I'll give you an artist. I'll give you a name of an artist working today. Hopefully I get her name right, but Jennifer McChriston. Jennifer McChriston, I think that's the name. Paints beautiful plein air. Has got some really high key, high chroma color notes, especially in her edges and especially in her imprimatura. It is just off the charts. So check her out. I think you'll find her on Instagram. Again, I really hope I'm getting that name right. I might not be, but just off the top of my dome, I think that's her name. So you'll see there that, that'll inspire you to go, well, hang on, now I'm going to use cadmium red light mixed with quinacridone magenta and titanium white on my edges. And it gives this pop of color, but she paints in a really amazing style, and it's got a certain realism to it. It certainly does. QQQ, I'm completely new to oil paints. Well done, Colin. Fantastic. Glad you're here. That's very exciting. And I see the different types: full oils, alkyd oils, water-soluble oils, Winsor Newton. Yep. Can any of these be used? Yes, you can. Generally, my rule is that once I start with a particular type of oil paint, I'll use just that sort of thing for that painting. A lot of problems can arise when we're mixing and matching different colors and different types of paint. So we're trying to, or different mediums, I should say. So there can be an issue with incompatibility across certain types, not necessarily brands. So for instance, I'm using Blue Ridge, but I could mix in there a little bit of Williamsburg, and maybe I got a couple of older tubes of Langridge handmade oils, and so I'll use a few of these, and that's fine. I mean, they're all just pigment mixed with oil, whether it's linseed or safflower oil or walnut oil. So they're all compatible, and they'll work really well with each other. But I just probably wouldn't mix my oils and then keep working with water-soluble oils, and now I'm on to some different alkyd oils. I think you could run into some sort of issue with that approach. So I think keeping everything the same, you should be just fine. But I highly, highly recommend getting your hands on the palette of Blue Ridge oil colors. There's a basic landscape set. Start with that one. That'll give you a great all-rounder of the colors, great limited palette. You'll be able to mix most colors with that palette. So Eric and I designed that palette specifically. I believe it's got 10 colors on it, and it's really wonderful to create a full range of colors. Now I'm just going to work the tree line here, working into that sky. I'm going to come back with the sky and cut that line anew with some sky color working down into the trees. And we'll add a couple of highlights here as well. But I like going back into the background with my second sitting. Before working down into the foreground at all, go back into that background and begin to bring that scene forward. I should have started with the sky, you're thinking. Yeah, but we talked about the sky last week, so I want to mix it up. I want to keep it fresh for you. Got a question here from Deborah. For priming canvas, I use a citrus essence brush cleaner in place of the terps. So for the imprimatura, you mean? So that technically isn't prime. I'm not priming the canvas. I'm staining the canvas or toning the canvas. It's called an imprimatura. Okay, so primer is your initial gesso layer. So here this is an, I believe this is my UP, my universal primed or acrylic primed canvas going over the top. I would not use the brush cleaner. I would not. There could be some sort of oil in there. There could be something, and citrus suggests it might be an orange oil. That's what gives that orange oil gives it has a certain quality that breaks down particular stuff, so they use it to remove, stains and various things, and adhesives as well. And really what we're doing is we're painting right here. Think about it this way. We're painting with colored adhesive. You don't want to have anything that will form a film that would stop that adhesive sticking to the surface. So I wouldn't use that, Deborah. I really wouldn't. I'd steer clear. I'd use a solvent. You want a volatile that will completely evaporate away without leaving a residue, or if it does leave a residue, the residue that's left is a binder in and of itself. You'll find pure gum turpentine is like this. As the volatiles evaporate out, it gets stickier and stickier, and it just has an affinity for surfaces and the paint, and it kind of binds stuff together. Still, that said, the solvent aspect can break your bonds within your pigment as it's trying to link up and form a nice film here. That's why I don't use it in the paint film itself. But paint it on there, wipe it off. You'll have a surface that will readily accept that oil paint. But I wouldn't use anything like an orange oil, no. I really would avoid that stuff. Now, I'm not saying that because I know for a fact, because I've done it, but it seems to me like it could be problematic. Yeah, I used paint thinned with mineral spirits on each tone. Yeah, well done, Balsam. Yeah, it's spot on. Blue Ridge code just worked. Thank you, Paul. Glad to know it's working. So there you go. Take it from Paul. You can add those paints to your cart and get yourself 10% off. I tell you what, man. I mean, look, they're not the cheapest paints, but they're certainly not the most expensive. Buying good stuff does cost a little bit of money, but it's an investment. And once you start using this stuff, you'll realize, you're like, oh, hello. This has got consistency, it's got quality, it's good gear. I'm telling you right now, like the Blue Ridge, all Blue Ridge here on the palette. It's all Blue Ridge handmade oil colors. What colors am I using? I am using raw umber and burnt umber. I've got raw sienna. I've got some transparent yellow oxide, transparent red oxide. I've got titanium white. I've got cremnitz white. I've got cadmium lemon, Indian yellow, cadmium red light, permanent crimson, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, cobalt teal, and phthalo green. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that is too many dang colors. I'm going to use every single one of them. But you don't need every single one of them. So I think I've got, how many colors have I got there? If I got, like 17, 18 colors there. So I don't think you need that many. Start with 10, and then start to flesh out and add to the palette from there. So if you're going to place an order right now, what I'd do is I'd get those 10, and they get a tube of Kremnitz white. There might be some brush conditioners that hinder paint from drying. Jim, you're onto it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Keeping everything the same with types of paint saves money. I also mix Cobra water mixable oils with my regular tubes that I already have. Okay, so Lori, thank you for that, because again, I don't have much experience using the water mixable oils, except for one time when I used to work for an art retailer. That's a word. It's early. An art retailer in Perth in Western Australia. I used to work for a company called Jackson's Drawing Supplies. And that was fun. And I did a little demo of a landscape using water mixable oils. And I kept going back to that store after I'd worked there. I kept going back over, 12 years, and they still had the dang painting hanging there. And then I think somebody nicked off with it, because at that stage I had a bit of a career, and they realized it was a Tischler. It was funny. Yeah, so there you go. I don't think I signed it, though. But as I'm doing it, I'm there going, who would paint with this stuff? No, not really. So we'll mix up a little bit of a lighter color here. I want to start to work with this paddock. I was kind of close with that color. I want some nice cool notes. So cobalt blue, cobalt teal, a touch of quinacridone magenta, some raw sienna. We'll warm it back up again. I'm just trying to find that balance between warm and cool and enough pale. And just trying to jostle back and forth to find the right little note. It's going to be pale enough to look like grass in open shade, cool enough to look like it's reflecting that blue sky, but green enough so that it looks like grass. And you find that you mix these really interesting little shades of grays, a little bit of cadmium lemon in there, just helps it come out a little bit. Leslie Daniel, do you have caps lock on, or are you actually shouting at me? All right, do you use oil ground ever to further prime your canvases? I have in the past. I used to use one that I absolutely loved, Oil Prime, made by Art Spectrum, but then I found out they had zinc white in it. So I've shied away from that. I haven't seen, I'm pleased to announce, Nettie might have access to this, being in Australia. I think more that's a brand for people that live down under, is that Art Spectrum brand. I think y'all in the US have got a different brand that you'll have access to. And over in the UK, I think you'll have something else. But just check your ingredients. I would avoid anything with zinc in it, especially what you're building the painting on, the foundation. Zinc has been shown to lead to delamination, which could appear as cracking, or what's called crawling or crazing. This is where your surface of the painting seems to move and bubble and warp. It's all symptoms of the same type of problem, which is delamination. It's just one layer not sticking to the other layer. So if zinc has the tendency to do that, then it makes good sense to avoid zinc at all costs. And consequently, a lot of paint manufacturers who have used zinc for decades are now removing it from their line. Now that said, don't freak out. If you've used zinc, Don't worry. It's okay. You'll be fine. I've got one of my favorite portraits that I ever did, used entirely zinc for the whole painting, and she's fine. She's still fine. And that was a painting of Oma. And I had a fellow artist say, you know, the titanium white, you're using too much of that in your portraits. You should try zinc, because you just got too much opacity in those passages. He was right. And so I tried zinc, and it was beautiful to work with. It was nice and transparent. It just worked great. But the problem was, I found out about this quality of zinc, and he had no idea. And then I talked to him about it. I said, did you know this? And he said, yeah, don't worry about it. I don't think he knew about it, to be fair. But if you've used it, don't worry. You should be okay. As I said, one of my favorite portraits I've ever done has got plenty of zinc white in there, and it's all right. Jens, hey Jens, I'm glad you could be here, brother. In fact, I want to shout out Jens and thank Jens very much for inspiring me to really, and encouraging me to have this new time slot, which we'll start mixing it up with this new time slot. So shout out to Jens over there. He's in Europe, and I'm glad this time zone's working better for you, brother. What made you change the color palette? Before you did not have raw umber and Indian yellow. Therefore, the Hansa yellow seems to be gone. I ran out of Hansa yellow here in the studio. I haven't made my next order yet. I love Hansa. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Nice warm yellow. It's got some transparency to it where the cadmium is cool and opaque. I got something transparent and warm. I can switch those out. But I was working with some grasses and some tones in my horse painting. I needed a bit of heat, so I was playing with Indian yellow. Now, Eric Silver, when I first started using Blue Ridge, he just sent me tons of color, all of his range, so I could play with all these things. And I kept every tube, you know, so every now and again I'll open the drawer and go, oh, I have to play with this. What's manganese violet do? It's not something I have on my palette ordinarily, but I will use the odd color from time to time. Hansa yellow, beautiful. I could change it out with Hansa yellow. Indian yellow, a little bit more opaque, I feel, than the Hansa, but it holds a very similar color space. I mean, it's different, but it's a warm yellow, and so Hansa's great for that. Raw umber, I'm just liking it for some more, not quite the depth of tone that you get in with the burnt umber, but again, it holds a slightly different color space. Can work a little better for some of those atmospheric passages in the painting, something that you want to diminish in space a little more. I better get a wiggle on, because I'm only going to have painted a hill in this live stream, and people might want to see a bit more than me just painting one little hillside here. But that is such a good question, Jens, and glad you're here. Glad you're here. Hope that makes sense. By the way, I got to shout out my other brother from another mother, Piotr, over there in Poland. He must have been tuning into these live streams previously at like 1 a.m. So glad you're here, bro. And I hope this is working a little better for you, and you're not going to get such a late night tonight. So welcome to the studio. Good to have you here. Isn't Hansa yellow getting scarce? Lead in it. Don't know about that, Jim. Could be, could be. I'll ask Eric about that one. Yeah, so Piotr is saying, I need to show you one Academy, some experiment I've done with zinc. Everything cracked. Dude, please post that in the community chat or in the art showcase on the Academy. I would love to see that. I shudder. That's pretty crazy. Everything cracked. Far out. Just a little bit of a warm glow here. Again, I'm seeing a little bit of light filtering through and just glancing across the top edge of that hillside. So that's what I'm painting in there at the moment. And I've got a huge problem because I've run out of an important medium here that helps me get through this time of day, and that is my butter coffee. It's all gone. All gone. And I haven't shown my studio buddy, who was here 5 minutes before me, I haven't shown him how to make butter coffee yet. And I don't trust him to make my coffee. No, it's okay, bro. It's okay. No. Check out the podcast with Mike Norris if you haven't already. I've been sharing. How long have we been sharing the studio for now, bro? Been 6 weeks yet?
6 weeks.
Yeah. Man, time's flying. But he's the only person I could share a studio with, I think. That said, I have my team in here now. And it's nice having my team on hand rather than just on Zoom and connecting with them virtually. We can actually talk in the same room. And for the most part, that seems to be working okay. Except when I have to do a voiceover. It's a little trickier. Yeah, working better for you, Piotr. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, man. I was getting Naples and Hansa mixed up in my head. Yeah, okay. Okay, for a second here, man. I knew about the Naples, and I'm bummed out about that, man. Because Eric's like, no, dude, it's no, it's gone. I should have bought boxes of that stuff. It's such a beautiful color, but yeah, apparently Naples is getting harder and harder to get. Gorgeous color is Naples. Cobalt blue, cobalt teal, and a little bit of ultramarine with a touch of transparent yellow oxide, a touch of raw umber. That's the combination here for, you can still barely see the dang palette. I apologize. I'm going to make myself smaller again so at least you can see the painting. And I'll just call out the color combinations as I'm doing it. I do want to share with you exactly what I'm mixing, but tech stuff, you know. So I'm going to aim to get that camera. I'm going to order it today, and hopefully that camera arrives by next live stream. So we can actually have palette shots. I just cannot work under these conditions. This will not stand. So, what I've done now is added to the texture here. Just like what we're doing in that painting of the larch trees over the frozen pond, which I'm so excited to get back to, by the way. It's, oh man, is it fun. We're going to be talking about that as part of our tree painting workshop. We've got a lot of different courses on the go at once. I'm just going to be adding to each of those libraries here over the coming weeks and expanding each one of those. Because we're not all portrait painters. We're not all landscape painters. We're not all still life painters. There's a lot of different stuff that we have to talk about here on the Academy. But as we go, I'll be uploading those. But this textured approach, this is very similar to what we were doing in that larch thicket painting. Now looking across at my screen, it does look a little out of focus, so I'm just going to make sure I zero in on this detail again. And I'm just paying attention to those trees, again without the trunks. I'm not painting the trunks just yet. We'll add those momentarily. But what I want is just a little bit of definition. And speaking of cameras, the painting process is a lot like that. Just pulling that focus ring and just making sure that that now is in focus. A little bit more realized so you can make out what the dang thing is, right? Leah made it. Fantastic. Well, yeah, it appears to be pretty sharp. Okay. We'll center that up a little better. I recently bought a Naples made by M. Graham & Co. Leslie, I'm going to jump on that because Eric's telling me he can't get it. And maybe it's an issue. And isn't M. Graham Is that US or UK based? I'm not sure. But warm white in Gamblin might be a good choice, Balsam. Okay, very good. Very good. What goes into warm white? Balsam, could you pick up the tube and give us some chemical or pigment codes that might be on the back of that tube, please? All right. Now, I was playing last night with these brushes. These are actually really nice. I don't often use them, but I was using it in the Icy River Cascade, an imaginary landscape that I've been painting. And these are ivory daggers, 1/8 of an inch. Really nice for some little details. So I've got some tiny little tree trunks to paint that are going to hold up these pine trees. We'll paint a couple and then I'll zoom right in. We'll start off with a couple of the darker trunks here. So I'll mix up just a touch, and I want this to be slightly grayer. One thing I've seen, this is what a lot of beginners do, is when they're thinking about branches and trunks, they think black, white, black, white. So their trees end up looking a little bit stark, a little bit harsh, a little bit sharp. And so what we want is we want a series of grays. So here, I'm gonna have a slightly duller note, but remember I have to fit in with this color space. It has to sink away. So I'm gonna have a bit of blue in there, so it coordinates, some ultramarine cobalt blue, and a little bit of that lead white in there, and a touch of the liquid impasto. Mix up a little color, roll the paint off the brush. Remember the brush loading demo? Roll the paint off the brush, pick it up with the blade edge. Using a maul stick, steady my hand here. I'll move that little one out the way. And here, this can help me just so I'm steady, and it's not going to be the sharpest mark in the world, but just a little trunk just holding up that tree. Now, if we load the brush just so, blade edge, we can get something that is relatively sharp. More paint is the answer. It really is. Right. Mix up a little bit of a lighter color. I'm just going to tap that lead edge there. Create a bit of softness and a little bit of a cylindrical form. Just a touch will do. Now, just so it doesn't look too hokey, blend in the base a little bit. We'll go ahead and zoom in a bit more. And then we're going to move on to some autumn leaves. I want to work into these golden notes right here, just in this area. Right. Now, here we've got a great opportunity for light against dark, which is these lighter trunks that are going to be against that dark shape, and dark against light with those couple of little darker trunks there. Occasionally, I will have a little dry brush on hand. No medium, no paint on it. Just touch a couple of the edges, soften that up just a little bit. That can help just tie one thing in with another. Bit of a lighter gray now. Crimson's white, a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of cobalt blue. Whatever about flake white, have you used that? So the Crimson's white is flake white. Crimson's white is flake white. It's basically using the stack lead process. It is basic lead carbonate. Jim Fairburn in the house. So basic lead carbonate, it's using the that stack lead process. And so what is it? It is basically lead rust. It is phenomenal, beautiful stuff. So different companies might call it different things, but that's what it is. That's what you're looking for. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head what the chemical code is for basic lead carbonate. I want to say it's PW4, it might be PW6, but I might be getting zinc and titanium confused there as well. So just have a look. So just a few little trunks here and there. I want to create some dimension and depth here in this zone. So not every trunk is going to be the same, because it's a forest, right? So a few of them are going to be slightly paler, and then we'll have a few that are a little bit darker, stepping out ahead. A little bit lighter, I should say. I'm getting my merds wixed. Trey's just made an awful discovery. He's just discovered his tube there has got zinc white in it. Hey, brother, you better be putting that in the trash right now. Or give it to one of your artist pals that you don't like. That'll learn him. Okay. This color has the following. This is the ingredients of warm white. I think that is a permanent orange, PO62. Permanent yellow, so it's got Hansa yellow, titanium white, and zinc. Zinc white, Balsam. Zinc white. That's why you got to check your tubes, folks. You got to check your tubes. So you might like that color, but here's the good thing about what you just discovered there. You can get each of those tubes individually, and with the absence of zinc, you can replace that for cremnants and make your own version that's even better. I really would avoid that zinc at all costs. Just a couple of trunks down here in front. This really is a signature of this type of landscape down here. It is, it's not the prettiest, but pine plantation. Farmers can use them as windbreaks for their stock. The sheep can seek refuge under these trees, but it's also a bit of a cash crop. It's something that they use to when you have some leaner years of farming. But anyway, a couple of trunks there. Let's zoom out. Let's start to work a little bit with the autumn leaves. We'll go to a slightly wider view here. I'll zoom in a bit more with this other camera. Seems we don't have palette cam. We'll make the most of it, eh? I'm excited about this painting. I'm looking forward to getting this one over the finish line and sharing it with you. I also have a buyer who's lined up for this one. So excited for that too. Now that was the other thing that we just uploaded, I forgot to mention, but a podcast with Kimball Geisler. Kimball Geisler is really just smashing it out at the moment with his paintings. He paints plein air. He also paints big, beautiful studio paintings. He's an artist based in the United States. I had a great sit-down interview with him and talked about his work, and we talked about a whole lot of other stuff too. A little bit more loose and relaxed for me, I must say, which I quite enjoyed. Normally I can be a little bit kind of on the tense, on the nervous side. I'm not an interviewer, you see, but the more I do it, the more comfortable I get with it, of course. But it was just nice to loosen up a little bit and just have a chat. And I guess he just made me feel comfortable that way. So, yeah, it was really wonderful. Now, we talk about a lot of stuff, but one thing that was interesting, we were kind of going back and forth, is a lot of kind of mental health type stuff, which I wasn't quite prepared for, but it was interesting to talk about and get his take on things. And so you might find that interesting and thought-provoking, that interview. Now, of course, here on the Academy, you've got access to the official video version of the podcast. This is not something that's like, you know, a huge thing on Tisch Academy, but it's just a little extra gift to you as part of your membership here on Tisch Academy. You get to watch those episodes. And because the episodes are now sponsored, Rosemary & Co. are kindly sponsoring the podcast. It also means that I have to do it weekly. So that's my obligation. I don't mind. I love doing the podcast. I absolutely love it. And it's just so cool talking to other artists. I learn more. I think I learn more than anybody just being there listening to these amazing artists from around the world, just hearing how they make it work. How they make it work as a business. What goes into their work, some technical stuff. We talk a lot of shop. I just had a mind-blowing interview yesterday with Steve Schmiller, and Steve, he's just appeared on the podcast for the second time. Last time he was on the show was 2019. So it's nice to have a chat with him and reconnect. His work has just come along in leaps and bounds, and he was already an amazing artist, but he's just gone so much further with his techniques. His work is really mind-blowing. It is truly mind-blowing. I just love what he puts into his paintings. So excited to bring that to you. That's going to be next week's podcast. But this week I got Kimball G, if you haven't seen that already. Piotr said, I would argue who learned more. Maybe. Yeah, so Kimball won the plein air salon, 15 grand. And now he revealed to me in that interview, though, because I thought this whole time, I was like, dude, is that plein air? And it turns out it wasn't plein air. It was a studio piece, but that was kind of the category that it won. But he made it clear it was not a plein air painting. I think that was just the name of the competition. But yeah, Kimball Geisler took it out. And not bad, picking up a prize like that. Not at all tomorrow. Glad you're here. You can always catch the replay as well. Rowan Carey took a workshop with Kimball last year. Awesome, Roxanne. Yeah. Well, maybe that's why Rowan's been smashing it out too. Rowan's doing some great painting. Shout out to Rowan. He wrote an article for us for Paint FOMO. I think it was issue 2. Beautiful article there. So I'm just going to create, I shouldn't get into the hill too much. I just want to create a little bit of something to work into, just to soften the edge. And we'll work here with these leaves. Let's switch it up. There we go. Tish, get out of the way. Move over there. There we go. Okay, hopefully that works a little better. And hopefully my hat doesn't get in the way. I might just turn it around so the bill of my baseball cap doesn't get in your face. Okay, so we need to mix up some of these autumn colors. We could overdo this. We really could. I'm going to mix up a range. Now, here's the deal. The brightest, most attractive, magnetic aspect of this painting is going to be those bright oranges that are leaping off the trees. It's kind of like the sparkle that dances across the water in a certain way. So, you know the way I like to do this, I like to build that dimension into the painting over time. I can't just leap out there and do this off the bat. It has to be built. If everything's bright and colorful, nothing is. I can really overdo this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold back and just apply a little sprinkling of that bright garnish towards the end. But the trick here is to start off muted. So let's make a little bit of a range. I'm going to be mixing up some colors for this area here. And we're going to look at our raw sienna and a little bit of burnt umber. Chuck in there just a touch of white, our titanium white, our Cremnitz white. Again, mixing those two whites together, really handy. Opacity from the titanium, structural integrity and workability, and a painterly quality from that Cremnitz. Beautiful stuff. A little bit of transparent yellow oxide in there now, and a touch of cadmium lemon. That's one note. I'm looking at my reference and I'm seeing there's a ton of different color notes here. There's a whole bunch of different color notes. It's not all just bright golden yellow. There's some darks in there, there's some reds, there's some brighter, paler yellows. So that's a certain note that we're going to be using. Now let's mix up another one. I'll put these other brushes aside for now. Might get out a couple of new daggers. Oh, I'm going to get out a fugly too. My fugly fan, number 2. Number 3, beg your pardon. This might help, just breaking up the edge a little bit. I want a slightly golden, slightly redder color note here. Titanium white, Cremnitz white. Touch of cadmium lemon. Touch of transparent yellow oxide. Little bit of saturation there with the Indian yellow. Nice. Now the trick is have a couple of options and have a place to go. So I'll add a couple of these color notes here and just start working into that couch, that wet edge. Dude, come on. Jim Fairburn. See what I'm saying? I can't work under these conditions, folks. That's it. I'm going to make sure he gets a cold coffee now.
Must be the wind. That was it.
Okay. Now the trick is not to paint every individual leaf, but I'm thinking about the edge. What kind of quality of edge do I want? Pick up a couple of fuglies here. The trick is also with a brush like this, we don't want to dab, 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 dab. No dabbing. The issue with a dab, dab is that you'll create a pattern and it will immediately be distracting. Get a little bit closer here, focus on that, and I'll show you a little bit of a closer up view of what we're doing here. We'll just move that over just a touch. There we go, there we go. Right. Didn't realize you were on early today. Eileen, we email all of our Academy members. So if you don't have emails, I maybe check that it might be going through to spam. make sure you've got us, I guess, approved as a safe sender. I'm not too sure how all that works, but I get my tech guys onto that. But just, yeah, we'll be changing up the times, so check your email prompts. And I'm going to be doing an earlier live here and there to just accommodate our European folks. Jens and Piotr and Sarah Churchill and a few of these other phenomenal, fantastic people over there in Europe. I've neglected you. I apologize. I'm sorry. But, you know, shout out to Piotr. I mean, he was, I guess, what, it was at 1 or 2 a.m., dude? It was late. Or early. Maybe he was getting an earlier start on his painting day than the rest of us. So another thing that will help here is just a little bit of dimension, a little bit of depth, a volume, a physical three-dimensionality to that paint itself. We're going to mix up another color note, bit of cadmium red, bit of burnt umber. Lift out that tone again with a bit of Cremnitz white, delicately lift out that tone. I'm going to add in a couple of little notes of red here. I want some sharpness to some of these marks. So I don't want to blend or bleed that edge too much. That won't give me the feeling that I'm looking for. I want something that's going to be standing bright and proud of that background. You can notice if I start to soften this edge at all, I'll lose that effect. Now you're seeing it pretty close up. So this is where the illusion is made, but it's not necessarily where the illusion is happening. What we need is to think about this as if it's going to be viewed from about 10 feet away. And that's kind of the sweet spot for a lot of my work, is that 10-foot mark. You're looking at it, you're like, wow, that kind of looks a bit photographic. It looks realistic. And then you get up close and you go, far out, there's nothing there. It's just a series of little scribbly marks. What's going on? That's the thing I love about painting. That keeps me coming back. Now I think the trick is going to be getting more fugly brushes. Let me get another fugly. One fugly is not enough. We need 2 fuglies. Oh, and a fugly dagger. Okay, I got a fugly 3, a fugly 4, that's a fugly 4, and a fugly dagger. What is a fugly? A fugly is an old brush that you would have thrown away long ago, probably should have, but you decided instead to get out the scissors, be mean to it, chop around on it. Now you've got an interesting paint applicator. Never throw a brush away. Always use it. All we got to do is find a creative way of making a mark. That's it. So sometimes pristine, precise, beautiful brushes without a hair out of place. That can be gorgeous to work with, really nice. But sometimes you want something ugly. And that can also make something quite interesting. Now, if I'm going to dab, I'm going to twist too. So don't dab, dab, dab. What's a dab, dab, dab? Dab, 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 dab. Equal distant, equal spaced, equal application, and you can see a pattern starting to emerge. So if you're going to dab, you got to twist too. And that will start to build it up with an interesting, a little bit more of an interesting texture. So I've mixed up a little more cadmium lemon here, a little bit more transparent red oxide. And one of the things I'm thinking about strategically is building up texture. I know here that this will end up going dry here at some point very soon. And about 24 hours later, I can jump in here and layer right over the top of this sucker and start to add even lighter marks. So I've held back tonally. It's not the brightest I can achieve. It's not, you know, in terms of color, the most saturated we could go. There's a few different ingredients here and enough umber to knock the saturation, or chroma. I'm referring to the intensity of the color. It knocks that down. And so that means I've got somewhere to go with my painting. So what's going to happen here? I'm going to add brighter notes of color and a few little brighter marks of some yellow. Some yellow, even maybe a little bit of white, and it calls those leaves to dance and sparkle. And have you ever seen trees caught in sunlight? There's a reflective, glossy nature to some of those leaves, and they reflect a little pinpoint of light. And so I want to have a little bit of that coming through too. Oh gosh, this is fun. It shouldn't be this much fun. I always had the idea when I was younger that work was supposed to be terrible and you weren't supposed to enjoy yourself. And if you're having fun, you're probably doing something wrong. I feel a little bit guilty about it sometimes, but I'm having a good time. I'll tell you that much. I hope you are too. Thanks again for being here. One more color note I want. I've got some golds coming through, but I want to create a little bit of zinginess. Remember our optical color mixing? We want some zingers in there. Let me adjust that camera one more time. Let's get into a little bit of another color note. So I'm thinking continually about complementary opposites as well. Let's move this down. On the color wheel, if I've got a gold and orange, what color do I want as a complement to that, to allow that golden orange to come out even more? I'm seeing it all over this photographic reference. You can kind of just pick it out. What color note do I want? Let me know in the live chat here. So, twist and dab. There we go. Shake it up, baby, says Nettie. I love it. Love the leaves. QQQ, will you come back later and add shadows to the two trees on the hillside? I will. I will add light and shadow as we build up the light and dimension in this painting. That'll be for the detail phase. I suppose you could call this modeling here in this phase. So, we're going to try something really radical. Indigo, purpley blue. I'd say, yep, purplish blue, absolutely. So I'm going to call it a purple mauve gray. Donna's onto it. I'm going to call it violet, blue violet. May I? A little bit of cobalt teal, a little bit of quinacridone magenta, touch of Cremnitz white as well. So I've added a couple of marks there. Too dark, but just a touch here and there, I think will really help that yellow just go bang. I'm going to add a little bit more white to the mix to allow that to come forward. Mix it in with some of that green of the hillside. if I brush in just a touch of that yellow, I just immediately mix it in. When you have a true complement to the color you're trying to convey and that relationship you're trying to build. So let's say I have a true complement to that orangey gold color that we had applied, it'll go gray. It won't go brown or make a type of mud. It'll just go to a neutral, to a gray. That's what happens. They kind of annihilate one another, which I always found curious, that why would you call them complementary opposites when you mix them together, they annihilate one another. But here's the thing with complementary opposites. When gold meets its opposite of this bluey, violety color, the bluey violet brings out the best in gold. And the gold brings out the best in the bluey violet. And there's a resonance there. There's a vibrancy there. It's almost like that old saying, you know, opposites attract. And sometimes you look at these married couples. I suppose I'm one of them married couples too. You know, Rachel and I are so similar in so many ways, but we're very different in other ways. And thank goodness for that. It's those opposite kind of character traits that I think helps bring out the best in each other. I think more so, she's bringing out better qualities than me. I still don't know what I'm doing for her. So, but I'm just so thankful she hasn't figured out she can do better. So there you go. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you tuning in. So just a little bit of violet there, just a little bit of violet will help that lift forward and just pop a little bit more. Oh, enjoy that color relationship so much. We can't overdo it, so just we need to chill just a little bit. All right, I'm going to start to bring these colors down. We need a little bit more of a couch down here. I'll blend that into the hillside. We'll work in there later, but we'll bring this down and we'll get a little bit of darker color there down in this little notch that we have here. It's how it stays exciting, says Balsam Art. Absolutely, amen to that. Remember, Donna, use a QQQ to help me have that question stand out, but I've caught it. I've caught it here. There we go. Andrew, when you're putting in the mixture of complementary opposite, are you using entirely different pigments that you've used in that background? No, I'm not. All I'm doing, though, I'm just making sure that I've got a bit more saturation here, okay? So I did use cobalt teal in the background, right? And I also had a little bit of quinacridone magenta in that sky and in a couple of little areas here and there. So we're going to have coordination. Just the only thing is I'll start to step back, or I won't add in colors like a burnt umber to knock that saturation out. And so it'll allow that color to be a little bit higher key, a little bit more saturated, and then I just temper that chroma with a bit of white now. So just trying to achieve the right tone so it fits into the right space in the painting. It's not too dark, not too light. That can seem a little bit off if it was in that distant hill, but it's high chroma enough that it's going to have an impact on that gold. So it's cobalt teal and quinacridone magenta, just a bit of it. Now, it does look somewhat out of place. I could add a few more little dashes here and there. Let's get just a little dash just up there under that tree, just a little bit here and there. Just a touch of this color here and there will just help that tie in. But as I paint across, I'll make sure I've got a bit more of that color in there. So, bring it down a little bit here. Hey, thank you so much, by the way, for spending this time with me here. It is so nice having your company here and painting with you. I really sincerely hope you're enjoying the live stream. I do have a huge favor to ask you, and I made an announcement on the Academy page, and I want to thank Daniel, I want to thank Nettie, and a few others. Joy, Brian, If I'm forgetting anybody, apologies. I got a few. Andrew, of course. Andrew over in Christchurch. A bit early for Andrew. Mind you, Andrew, Nettie's awake, so what's your excuse, buddy? Come on. Where are you on the live stream? Oh, that's right. He's got to work. But there's a few. So I asked for basically a photograph of your work from before you started Tisch Academy. If you had anything that you were working on, basically what I was asking for was a before and after. You see, right now, what we're doing, and finally, I haven't been able to do this for years, but finally I have help. Everything that I have been able to make in my particular little realm here on the internet, I pour directly back into the business to try and make what I do better and better and better. Because I want to be better for you and really help you master painting. That's my mission. That's what I'm here to do. And I feel like it's something that has been a gift that's been given to me. I can't take any responsibility for it other than to try and be a good steward of this. And so what I'm trying to do is just make it best I possibly can. And so really, sometimes I need a little bit of help to just spread the word in a way. And so one of the things that would help me, if you would, you don't have to, but if you would, is send me a before and after. And I'll tell you where the before and after could go, is on the landing page of the website. Because, you know, some of my OGs, you've been here for 4 years, since I first started Patreon. I mean, Jean over in Christchurch was here from day one that I started Patreon. In fact, she revealed to me the other day that she was actually here earlier than that. She was here when I first started writing this article, this kind of blog, newsletter blog thing, back in 2015 called the Workshop Weekly. Does anybody remember that? That's where I first started online, was just a free newsletter, Workshop Weekly. I wasn't even on YouTube. I had no Instagram, no Facebook, no nothing. It was just Workshop Weekly. Do you remember that? And I think she signed up because she would have heard a podcast that I did with Corey Huff, the Abundant Artist. And at that time, I had no online presence whatsoever. And so we've just been building steadily over the years, but it really helps me spread the word, you know? But anyway, I digress. Just, she was here she was the OGs of my OGs, right? So, but a lot of you have been here since the very beginning, and now we're in a position where we're going to start really spreading the word and pushing this out to more and more people. And one thing that will help us is we're rebuilding, we're tweaking so many things on the Academy, and we're also rebuilding the landing pages, the first thing that people see when they go to sign up. So having some examples of the lessons that have worked for you would be outstanding, if you could. If you've got something, you feel like you made a huge improvement here, you think that's showing up in your work, then please hit me up. My personal email, Mr. Jim Meeker, I'm going to ask you if you could just copy and paste that into the live chat. But the other way that you can do it, and that's on the announcement, by the way, Jim. The other way that you could do it is also just send me a direct message, and you can attach images to your direct message. And I appreciate that so much. Thank you for doing that. And a big shout out and a thank you to everybody who sent me one so far. We won't be able to use every single one, but I just appreciate having some of those images there. And it's also just really fantastic to hear from you, and that some of this stuff is landing and making a difference with your own creative journey. Ah, thank you, Roxanne. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I remember you from YouTube, says Lynn. Yeah, well, I started on YouTube a long while ago, Lynn. Yeah. Yeah, but before that, I had this this little newsletter that was called the Workshop Weekly, and I just every week, well, just about every week, I would send out an issue and talk about another painting technique. And I guess, you know, it took me a little while to work up the courage to get onto YouTube, but I'm so glad that I did. It was only about a year later that we started making videos. Yes, Piotr, we'll get on to the Hangouts. We're going to just wait till after relaunch, but yeah. Now, what does relaunch mean? You might be going, well, hang on, relaunch, what's that all about? Well, I got to tell you, right now, if you're listening to this, you are, unless you're watching a replay of the live stream, if you're a future person, sorry, should have gotten in quick. But if you're a future person, what this means is that if you're watching this now live, right now, if you're in the studio with me live, as of when we're watching this, interacting with each other here, it is September 12th, I think, for you, or is it the 11th for you over there in the US? I think it might be your 11th, my 12th. So, of September 2024, prices are going up. I'm raising the prices, which means that folks have a limited time to get in before that price goes up. So we're going to market this, push it out there to as many people as possible. And then yeah, so again, with that price increase, you're a legacy member, and so you're not going to have to worry about that price increase at all. But anybody new signing up, there will be a price rise. Because let's face it, for $5 a month, you can get access to most of the library, and at the higher tier, you got access to these weekly live streams. And we're going to have a little bit more bonus content for our higher tier as well. But this is, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, there's a lot of content. I think like one week we uploaded 6 hours of content. The following week was 4 hours. This week is going to end up being about 4 or 5 hours a week. I mean, every single day of the week over the last couple of weeks, we had uploaded a unique piece of content somewhere to some platform. Most of that went on the Academy. I was there when you landed on YouTube, says Scott. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Actually, I remember you commenting on some of those earlier videos. I remember Paul from some of those earlier videos. Paul over in the UK. Thank you, Lynn. I'm glad too. Jean's in the house. Hey, I still have everything downloaded from all your workshop materials. Love it. Thank you, Jean. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. So I don't want to get too carried away with these trees. What I wanted to do is just create a bit of a couch, work a little bit more down here with this edge work. We'll just get a couple more color notes here with our cobalt blue, ultramarine blue. I've got some nondescript trees that are just growing here on the edge of this hillside. There's a little bit of a weed that we call broom down here. It actually does look a lot like a broom upended. And another particular type of plant that the English so kindly introduced to New Zealand and has really made its mark on the New Zealand landscape in a pretty profound way. It's called gorse. It grows like a weed. It grows everywhere. And once you plant it, you can't get rid of it. And my farmer buddy, Dave, was telling me they used to sell seeds, a pound for a pound. You'd pay £1 and they'd give you 1 pound of seeds. And it was like 4,000 seeds. And each gorse plant produces like 8 million seeds. And it just spreads like wildfire. And it's spiky and stickery and awful. And they used to use it for hedging in farms. So to define these boundaries of farms, and they would use it as edges to the field. Trouble is, it grows everywhere and in anything. And it just takes over. It completely takes over. It chokes out the native grasses and plants, and it will just spread and spread and spread. And it gets quite big too. It doesn't stay small. It turns into a small tree. But you brush up against it, you know about it, let me tell you. So anyway, I painted some gorse in here. I've added it to my painting. But there'll be a few native species in here as well. But that's part of the landscape now. But what it has allowed me, which I do appreciate from this gorse, what it has allowed me is an opportunity to have some darker tone down here towards the base of the tree to create more contrast for the destination of the painting. And where's my destination? Down here at the bottom of the road. So anything I can do to increase contrast here without getting tonally too dark, I just turn it down here in tone and then turn up the brightness, the value here on these trees either side and create something with some real contrast. Light against dark, dark against light, something to draw the eye. Ah, very good, Eileen. That sounds good. Eileen's up to number 23 on the pencil portraits. Well done. Well done. Thank you, GW. Really appreciate that. So yeah, have a look at that announcement. Again, if you would be so kind, do me a solid. And a lot of it, I will just, well, it's up to you, but I will just mention a first name. I'm not going to give away your personal details, but Daniel sent me an amazing before and after. And Daniel Beresford over in Australia is absolutely smashing it out. All credit to him. And he's just shown this amazing before and after. So before some of the lessons and then after. And, you know, he's come a long way. But again, you know, I think the instruction helps. I believe in what we're doing here. I think the instruction helps. I think the community helps and the encouragement that we get from each other. It takes a little bit of info, but it takes that perseverance and know-how and that, well, dedication, persistence on your part. So with a little bit of know-how, then you bring the persistence and the perseverance. It's a winning combo. And I really sincerely hope the live streams and the lessons are helping. But again, it just helps me get this out there to more people. And I want to just stress the point that when we raise the prices, you will not experience that price rise. You're locked in as a legacy member. So long as you're a member, you don't sign off and then sign back on, you're locked in at that price. And thanks again for that. All right, I'll leave that there. That was all I had in terms of announcements. We'll keep painting here, shall we? I'm going to mix in just a little bit of that paler purpley gray, break up that edge a little bit, nondescript bushes and trees, some taller grasses down here. I actually think this hillside's for sale. I'm kind of interested. It's such a beautiful hillside at the top of town looking down onto the main street of Lawrence. It's very beautiful. The farmer's going to find me in the field in the not too distant future, painting a scene of Lawrence from the hill above. Okay, a little bit of ultramarine blue now, a little bit of quinacridone magenta, mixing in a touch of titanium white, nice pale. Yeah, a little bit on the pastel side, but I want a bit of opacity here, cobalt teal in there. And we'll just add a couple of violet notes here now. A nice bright zingy bluey violet. We can go for a little more magenta, have a bit more red coming through there with a couple of these other notes. And now I've got something to work into. So just like we were before, we'll bring some of these marks of the gold tree this way. Rhiannon, if you're one of my legacy members and you want to drop down a tier and then go back up, as long as you're a member somewhere, I don't see any reason why we can't accommodate you at that previous price point. I don't think we're going to make you jump up to the higher price point. So I'll make sure that Jim Fairburn has got that noted so that if you at 18 now, you need to go down to the $5 a month and then you want to go back to 18. So long as you're one of those legacy members, I think we can accommodate that. I don't see any reason. My goal is to make it as easy as possible for you. And I've always wanted to just have the best value art education online, period. And give you as much value as I could for what you've paid. So But again, I couldn't do this without you, and I really appreciate it. So we'll do everything we can to make it as easy as possible. I miss Gary's jokes. Well, I can tell you some jokes. I don't have any jokes. Gary is, where is our resident larrikin, Gary Kemetz? Where is he? Is it too early for him? Is he working? Normally he's here, but it's a little bit later over in the US when we go live ordinarily. All right. How's Friday? Still Thursday here from Jim. Friday for what, Jim? Can you clarify? If I was talking about something there and I missed that, please hit me up or DM me, buddy. Thank you. Oh, I'm getting a little dabby. You know, I'm thinking a little dab will do you. It won't. It won't. You better not. Let's poke a few little holes here in this tree. The tree was a little bit on the solid side. So next live stream, I'm hoping my camera would have arrived, and we'll get hooked up with a proper pallet cam. No more of this iPhone just not cooperating nonsense. Got to show you what I'm mixing because that's such a huge part of the live stream, isn't it? That color mixing aspect. Showing you how the palette works. Important. So if my tree is feeling a little bit solid, just go through, knock a couple of holes in it. Oh, I cannot believe time. Time is flying by again. It does every live stream, doesn't it? I got 12 minutes left of this live stream. Thank you very much for hanging out with me here. Far out. You're a trooper. You've hung out with me for a couple of hours now, painting in the studio. Appreciate that so much. If I haven't answered your question, if you entered something into the live chat, and I haven't gotten back to you yet, then go ahead and hit me up again. Hold me to this. Make sure I answer every single question here. Because I'm painting and I'm following the live chat. I can see I got a question from Arnaldo. Hey, brother. Arnaldo over in Puerto Rico. All right. My wife is watching this live with me and asks me, how much would you finally sell that painting for? Whoa, that's a good question. That's a good question. I haven't come to a final price on this painting. I do price my work based on size and subject, and I kind of average it out between those two. And we do have some sort of standardized pricing. And to be honest, I'm putting the prices up on my original work as well. I try to see if there's any resistance in the market, and I try to do my previous collectors a solid by really demonstrating that the prices are going up, that the market is responding, and their investment has gained in value. And so they've been going up kind of about 5–10% year on year. There was a couple of years there where it didn't go up so much because we had some economic funny business going on, and I wasn't actively marketing my paintings, more so focusing on the teaching. But anyway, I digress. This painting probably would go somewhere in the neighborhood of anywhere between 7.5 to 9 grand New Zealand. That works out. You can knock about a third of that off to give you an idea for US prices, which would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5 to 7 US, I think. I'm not too good with my math, you know that. So it'll be somewhere around that. And it's interesting, you know, I used to be so nervous when telling people like that were interested in my work how much this thing would be. And they'd be like, you know, and then some people, it just didn't faze them. If somebody's not in the market, they're not in the market. No worries, it's fine. It's fine. I'm at the end of the day, like, and first and foremost, I'm painting for me and you. We're getting a learning experience here, and I'm just enjoying my time at the easel. Like the creative fulfillment's through the roof. I love this stuff. And hopefully that comes through in the final work. I'm not trying to do it just because I think I could flog this painting and sell it. But it's interesting. I used to feel like, oh, you know, and I want to cut them down and give them a deal right off the bat. And I was very nervous about making the sale or not making the sale. And so now it's just like, oh, well, that's the price. That's the price. And it's funny, you know, I told this guy the price the other day, and he was like, oh, yeah, no problem. I'll take that one, and that one. You let me know when they're done. I'm like, okay, no problem. I got a threefer. Hey, Rachel's here. Hey, Rach. My darling's here. Just right in the last 9 minutes of the live stream. Hey, shout out to my boyo. If you're listening right now, love you, buddy. It's kind of cool. Like he could watch this on the TV, and instead of watching cartoons in the morning, he's watching the painting show. It's like, there's Daddy on TV. Hey, boyo. Oh, Donna, come and see us. If you're coming down to New Zealand, come and see us. Pop into the studio. Rhiannon, now I'm curious, what is the most you've made from a painting and the size of it, if you want to answer? I might not answer that one, Rhiannon, if that's all right. People do kind of give it a bit funny when it comes to prices of paintings and all that stuff. I mean, you can find out. You know, I might answer that via DM, but if you don't mind, I might keep that one under my hat this morning. Yeah. But ask Rachel, you know, everything I make, everything I bring in virtually, you know, of course, there's a reality. We've all got to pay either mortgages or payments on this, that, or the other, put food on the table, you know, provide, do that sort of thing. But virtually everything goes right back into the business. And one thing I love to do with that is when I can, when I've got the budget for it, is hire people, hire help from skilled people that can help push this forward. Because goodness knows, I don't possess all the skills that I need to make this work online. I'm stumbling in the dark still. So I need help from people that are far brighter, smarter, and more talented than me that can really help me spread the word and get this out there. So that's what I do. But anyway. Oh, that's wonderful, Donna. Wonderful. Was in Auckland last year, but didn't get to the South Island. You got to see the South Island. The South Island is where it's at. Now, I don't know if this is slightly blasphemous to say this, and you might disagree, and I apologize if I cause any offense here, but I really feel like God really used some of his best ideas for landscapes in this island that I'm living on. South Island, New Zealand is where it's at. It's where it's at. And I'm sure Jean and Andrew Pugh over there in Christchurch might agree with me. Maybe. For sure, Nettie, we can make that happen. We can make that happen. For sure. Oh, yeah, Margaret River. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I used to show at a gallery there. I did. And I've painted, that's kind of where I built my career, was in that part of the world, in a place called Yallingup. Fond memories of Yallingup, yeah. The seascape down there, like a lot of the blue waves that I paint, yeah, were inspired from that part of the world. That's wonderful, Donna. And I got a couple of artist friends that are still down there in Margaret River that I kind of lost touch with over the years, but I have fond memories and I think about Margaret River very often. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Love it. I think if we didn't move to New Zealand, we probably would have ended up there. That or a place called Denmark. Not Denmark over in Europe, but there's a Denmark in Western Australia. There's Denmark and Walpole and Albany along that south coast in Western Australia. Beautiful scene down there too. A bit further away from Perth, the Big Smoke on the west coast. About 6 hours from Perth, taking the inland route. But Margaret River now that they built the new highway, it's just a couple hours away, isn't it? Love to see you at PACE 2025. If I would jump on an airplane, but I probably won't, GW. Has Eric Rhodes been in touch with you about coming? No, he hasn't. That's interesting. Oh, we can look at that. We can look at that. Oh, thank you, John. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. How about a train trip from Auckland down South Island? You might just get a little bit wet when it comes to Wellington and trying to go from Wellington to Picton there, brother. You could do a train trip on the islands, but there's not a bridge going across the Cook Strait as yet, Terry. So if I've missed your comments or questions, apologies. Yeah, Jean agrees with me about South Island of New Zealand. It is for sure. Oh man, the plein air tour, 2025. It's now sold out, by the way. If this is the first time you've heard about it, sorry, but we're taking 24 folks, most of them from Tisch Academy, around Queenstown and Wanaka in the South Island of New Zealand, some of the most spectacular landscapes here in this country. And we're going to be painting plein air over the course of some pretty epic tours. Looking forward to it. Now I'm starting to get just, the little switch in my mind has been flipped. And I'm starting to bring out some of these colors, and I'm enjoying this already. I'm really loving this so far. So I'm gonna hang it up there. That's 2 hours. I can't believe how quick it goes. But also you can see, if you're a newbie, if you've never seen a live stream before, these paintings take time. It takes a little while to paint a painting, particularly doing traditional realism. But hopefully you've picked up a couple of tips and a couple of techniques from this. Wow. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go home and get some breakfast. I'm looking forward to that. I am hungry. But this has been so much fun. Thank you for all of your very kind comments and the questions that have come through. Excellent questions today. And thank you for hanging out with me. And thank you for being part of Tisch Academy. Right now, click the home button. Check out some of the content that you may have missed over on your main Tisch Academy page. And also later today, I'm going to blast out an email with some links to content as well as the next edition, our next installment of Paint FOMO, where we announce the winner of our Paint FOMO painting competition. I was going to say something earlier about judging. I forgot about that. But suffice to say, it's very difficult to judge and very difficult to pick out a winner. I don't like judging. I don't like being part of competitions where they're judged, but it is what it is. How are you going to have a competition if you're not going to judge it in some way? So you might not agree with our choice, and a few of us here were part of the decision of who was the winner, but I want to say, everybody that entered that competition, thank you for your entries. It's amazing to see what you're creating in your own studio. And, you know, the quality of the painting here at Tisch Academy is just, it's out of sight. You know, you're doing awesome, and I really appreciate your willingness to contribute to that competition. So because it was a very difficult decision, what we've got is we've got a winner, we got a runner-up, and I got a couple of honorable mentions. So of those 4 people, there's going to be some prizes that we're going to be giving out. So, and we got a winner for the deluxe set of Rosemary & Co brushes. And we're going to do this again sometime. It's all for a bit of fun anyway. So thanks so much for spending this time with me here in the studio. Couldn't do this without you. Love you so much. And again, check out the announcement. If you could do me a favor, send me a before and after of what your paintings were like pre-Tisch Academy. And if these lessons have helped you, show me an image of what you're painting now. You know, if you've seen an improvement in your work, again, I'd love to hear from you. I really appreciate that, and that'll help me spread the word to more and more people. All right, thanks so much. I'm going to get out of here and get on to another painting project. Probably going to hang this one up, put Icy River back on. Stay tuned for that one. Epic tutorial dropping next week. It's going to be fun. All right, I'll get out of here and get on with the day. And thank you for spending this time with me here. Bye.